The views expressed by the speakers of CamaPlan podcasts are those of the speakers only and may not reflect those of Cama, its members, or employees. Cama does not guarantee the accuracy of information provided by these speakers. Professional advisors should be consulted before implementing any options presented. Cama absolutely does not endorse or recommend any individual or organization, including the speakers. Cama, its members, and employees do not accept liability for losses and/or damages arising from errors or omissions within, reliance upon, or any use of the information provided by the speakers. Individuals are strongly encouraged by Cama to conduct their own due diligence before making any investment choices. Cama does not act as, nor offer the services of, an investment advisor, CPA, realtor, or attorney. If tax, legal, accounting, investment, or other similar expert assistance is required, the services of a competent professional should be sought. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Road to Financial Freedom, a podcast that allows experts to share their stories and secrets to unlocking their financial independence. This podcast is brought to you by CamaPlan, a self-directed IRA administrator located in Ambler, Pennsylvania, that is focused on educating investors with different ways to grow their retirement savings faster through alternative investments. And we are continuing to record our podcast remotely. I'm Jess Jones, CamaPlan team member and your podcast host. This week, our guest is not only a real estate investor, but he's also a host, top dog, and founder of the Old Dogs REI Network, a blog and weekly podcast aimed at real estate investors over the age of 50 who want to grow retirement wealth and create a legacy for their children and grandchildren. Before forming Old Dogs, he spent 20 years in business on the corporate and entrepreneur side, was a professional musician, and served as a missionary for orphaned, abandoned, and at-risk children with his family in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Now at a new stage in his life and creating a space for those in similar positions through his network, his goal is to own and control 1,000 units/doors in less than 6 years. His network's education surrounding real estate investing for seniors is helping many investors seeking retirement solutions thrive, not just survive. So please join me in welcoming Bill Manassero to the podcast. Hi, Bill. Thank you so much for being here today. How are you?
Great, Jessica. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Well, I got the pleasure to get the chance to listen to your podcast because you had our founder, Carl, on yours, and that episode will come out soon. So I'm excited that we get to, have you on ours this week. And I'm just really excited to get to hear more about this insane background that you have. So please feel free to tell me some more about it. Where were you born, grew up? What did you go to school for and study? And how did that inform or how did that change what you decided to do later on in life? I'm curious about, is it always the same what people go to school for versus what they actually end up doing and loving in life? So feel free to go off about your background.
Sure. Well, basically, I grew up in Southern California. I was born in San Diego and, grew up all around California, but mainly in Southern California. I was just, I have 4 kids and a family, and we're, a middle-class family. My dad was an engineer and was involved with the rocket, the Saturn V launching the first rocket to the moon. And he was working with Dr. von Braun out of Huntsville, Alabama. It was really exciting time. A lot of great things going on in the country at that time too. And so it was pretty fun as a kid. I just remember having these little NASA stickers and I put them all over my notebook and my books and everything. And it was just like, all the kids were like, whoa, where'd you get those? Anyway, so that was like, just kind of growing up. I when I eventually, went to college, it wasn't really 100% sure what I wanted to do. And, as you'd mentioned, I was a musician, so I had actually helped earn my way through college playing, clubs and coffee houses and things like that. And so that was a fun part of my background. But I just I never really saw a future in it. As much as I wrote songs, tried to sell them and do all that, it looked like I was kind of going nowhere real fast. So I'm kind of doing that, going to school, just trying to figure out what I'm going to do. it was one of those things where I've gone to school so many times. I went to so many different schools that I started as a psych major. I went to a 2-year community college up in Northern California, a place called Columbia, which is near Yosemite. A really beautiful place. We had a lake on campus, and it was just, I kind of went there more just, to go to that environment. But
that's legitimate, though. I think I was really leaning toward Ithaca at one point too, because of how beautiful it was in the spring. But
yeah,
emphasis on the spring.
We're all into outdoor sports and everything like that too. And my best friend also went to school up there with me. I was very involved when I was in high school. I was really involved, became student body president, class president, and all these other things that in school. And I was kind of drawn towards politics, and that's kind of, I thought, where I'd go. So when I was up there, I also ran for student body president of my community college, and I formed a group called the Tuolumne County Young Voters Association, because this was the time when they had lowered the voting age to 18. So, we were trying to inform kids and trying to let them know, what the options were out there and stuff. So I also got involved with local politics there, and they recruited me into sort of a little local machine. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just, up there having fun, Mm-hmm. I mean, my favorite class was skiing, when winter came, Yeah. I mean, I was I don't know what I was doing, but it was really fun. I got elected to public office at 18. Also, I was, just very involved in stuff at the time. Again, I was thinking, well, do I really want to go into politics? Is this something that I'd really like to do? Because I was working with politicians that were running for office, and I was not really impressed with the people that I was working with. I was going, do I want to be one of these guys? So it's I ended up getting a scholarship to USC, went down to Southern California, back to where I had lived. And majored in public administration. So my first 2 years, I got an AA degree in psychology, which really was different. And then I went into public administration, and then I actually, it was Buddy and I was just kind of burnt out on school. I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I had a friend that I hung out with when I was up in Columbia, and I thought, well, let's just basically let's hitchhike to Florida, and let's work our way in a freighter over to Australia, and we'll surfing there, and we'll just hang out. So we just totally right in the middle of our education, we just kind of dropped all things and traveled around the U.S. Made it to Florida, tried to get on some sort of steamers, anything we were going to paint the ship or clean the decks or whatever. Never happened. I ended up in some French restaurant playing guitar, just to survive in Southern Florida. And I'm going, this is not life. So I said, I'm going to go back to school. It was a fun trip. I mean, we took about a year, in that process, but I went back to California. Actually, went up to Sacramento State because, again, I was thinking the political route would be good. I could be at the sort of the seat of California government there. I went a year there, and then I moved back down. In the meantime, I'm working. I started actually in Southern California working with banks, and as it was just a job that I could get at a friend who was at a bank. I got a job as a teller, so. It was a kind of a quick way to earn money. I could work with my school schedule. I ended up in a lot of school at night because I ended up working full time. And so, just kind of juggling these things, trying to figure out what I'm going to do, what I want to be. And in that process, I ended up, I mentioned Sacramento. I went from Sacramento down to Southern California and ended up finishing up as a geography major at Cal State Northridge. so it's just like all over the board. Okay. And so it was, I just kind of wanted, at that time I was working full time and I just wanted to get on with life. I did well in the banking industry. I worked my way up quickly. By the age of 21, I was a vice president. I managed a bank in Beverly Hills. And then they promoted me to the corporate offices where I got into the marketing department. And while I was there, another new thing was happening. Deregulation was happening within the financial industry. So there was a new thing called retail banking, and I was with an organization that was really good at it. So I thought I would break away from the bank and maybe start my own consulting and help other people in deregulated industries, like the airline industry was being deregulated at the time. So was the financial services. So for my own little marketing consulting business, it evolved into a marketing public relations agency. And I was working with all kinds of, really exciting clients. I helped to launch the Infinity division of Nissan Motor Corp. I worked with, New Balance shoes and just a lot of, really exciting different companies. And I also did a lot of celebrity events being in Southern California.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We worked with people like Heather Locklear and Jimmy Stewart and people like that, from different events. And so that was, it was fun. I was kind of enjoying what I was doing. My advertising public relations agency eventually merged with another agency, and I ended up working on different accounts, and still very involved and still decision maker. But just a lot of things were happening in my life, and at the same time, and I was still just to kind of break the corporate scene. I just didn't like the corporate life that much, and when I had my own business, I liked it a little bit more. But they're just long hours. I'd wake up 4 a.m. and work until 9 o'clock at night. Sometimes I'd just sleep in my office, and that entrepreneurial side was really kind of intense, but fun, at the same time. But just so there were a lot of things going on in my life, and one of the things that was I would play like clubs when I could, like on weekends, just to kind of relax and do music and and hang out with some of my musician friends, and that was kind of cool. Kind of broke away from the student high in the week and that kind of deal.
And it's important too, I think.
It really
sort of mental clarity for yourself as well. Yeah,
exactly. And so just a lot of things went on in my life that. Just some things that were pretty intense. At one point I was, just really depressed and just kind of going through a really difficult time. Yeah. Ended up, just trying to really looking at my life and saying, what am I doing? What am I doing? I've been running around. I lived a pretty wild lifestyle. I was, fancy cars, women and all that other stuff. It was pretty crazy. And so, there was just a major revelation that happened in my life, and I just all of a sudden realized, I just never really was 100% happy. I was just having a hard time, and basically, I found Jesus, and it just changed my life. I just surrendered my life, and I said, you know what, I've done so many things wrong. I was also had a drug issue too. At the time, the drug of choice was cocaine, and I was all over it, and it was a bad scene. And so it was amazing because I had the power to quit what I thought I could never do before, and rehab and other things. Mm-hmm. So I was here I was in this industry, this this advertising industry, and it was just a real challenge. I'm sitting there. I'm really a different person. I changed so much. And so I'd be in these meetings and we'd be talking about, launching a new product, and we'd be talking about, let's say this, let's say that. And I'd be the guy that would, would just be like the disruptor. Unfortunately, I'd say, well, we can't really say that. And they would go, why? And I would say, well, it's not true. It's, and they go, we know it's not true.
Yeah, we're the guy looking out for the consumer.
What we do, And I'm going, but it's not right. We're lying. And so it was. I didn't last real long in the advertising industry after that. That was like
Right.
really, really tough. And so I was feeling a real call to the shift kind of what I was doing. And I had a friend in technology. And at that time, there were, a lot of software industry in Southern California. And he asked me, hey, would you want to get involved in launching this organization called Software Council of Southern California? And I said, sure. And I basically got involved, and we launched this group, try to build up the tech. It's sort of creating a Silicon Valley South, in Southern California. Mm-hmm. And we had a lot of these conventions and things like that. We had like Mark Cuban come in and others that, were just new on the scene. All of a sudden the internet was exploding, and it was just a crazy time. And so it was pretty exciting, actually. And one of the companies that I had encountered had asked me to work with them. It was a new startup, everybody was going to internet startups at that time.
Right.
And it looked like it was really a challenge. Now, what I had also done during this time too, is I was really being drawn into ministry. And so I had started this ministry where I was writing children's music, and had like a little rock band for kids. It was kind of weird. And I was kind of doing this thing on my off time, like there wasn't a lot of it, but I would go and do little concerts at churches and schools, and and then we released an album, and the album got picked up on local radio stations, and then made another album, ended up making 3 albums. Our music got carried all over the place, and I was kind of being called into this full time. Mm-hmm. And I was at the same time I joined up with this new internet startup. And one of the board members in this internet startup was Meg Whitman, who founded eBay. And there were a bunch of Harvard MBAs and people that were just like, I was totally outclassed, and I'm just this guy, a local geography major, and with these brilliant people. But it was fun. But I was saying, okay, I'm going to do this only for a year. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to get these stock options. And after 1 year, my stock options will mean that I won't have to work for the rest of my life, the way that we'd set up the deal, right? Supposedly. And so I was kind of going, I kind of like said to God, in this process, said, look, okay, I'll go into full-time ministry. Just give me 1 year at this internet startup. And I'm going to go and able to go into full-time ministry, and I'll have all this money, and we'll be able to do this. And okay, so that was my deal with God. And then a year later, there was this thing called the internet bubble that burst. Mm-hmm. And all of the stock options that were up in the millions, basically it dropped into absolutely nothing. I mean, it wasn't even worth wallpapering my room with, and I think it was kind of, at that time, I think God at that point said to me, okay, you want to do it your way. Now I want you to do it my way, and I want you to walk out of faith. And so that's what I did, basically, is, basically we downsized, we sold, everything, basically. And we had this music ministry out of like a 34-foot RV. We traveled all around the country. We flew also to other countries like Russia and South Africa, and just all over the place, doing these concerts for kids and the music. And the thing that was that I really liked is, oh, by the way, I also got married in this process. I got married back when I was doing the Nissan, Infinity thing. And so I had, a new wife. I had little babies, and when my wife had 2 small children when I married her, 4 and 6. And so I was kind of like instant dad. And then we started having our own babies. And so, and I was always working like crazy, especially I was going to Japan a lot. I'd stay there 3 weeks at a time, come back for a week, I'd go back again. And I really didn't like that at all. And so now all of a sudden I'm going into full-time ministry, and I said, I'm going to keep my family with me. And so we all traveled together. And as my family was growing, we're in there. I've got a band, that's also traveling with me. And it was crazy. We're doing music festivals, and it was a blast. It was like a lot of fun. And my kids were basically growing up on the road. They were like little roadies, here. And it was a blast. We'd do these events at big conferences and stuff. And my daughter, Ariana, I have 7 kids now, but she was at that time, she was my firstborn wife. And she would go to these events, and we did things like with World Vision and Compassion International. And so she'd like to work at their table and try to get kids sponsored and stuff, and she just loved it. She had so much fun doing it. Every time we do an event that they were at, we would, she'd get involved. And she said, Dad, I'd love to sponsor a kid, and I said, well, that's great. That's awesome. But, you're going to have to use part of your allowance to do this, because I want you to be serious about it. I don't want it to be Dad's thing. I want it to be your thing, and I'll support you in it. I want you to be able to really care about this kid enough to really get behind it. And so she ended up picking this little kid from Haiti, and his name was Donald. And she just got enamored with Haiti and everything about it. And she's like 9-10 years old. So every chance she could go on the internet, she would research Haiti. And then she started going into all the orphanages there. And she'd see these babies. And she was like memorizing the babies' names. You could tell she just was in love with Haiti and in love with the whole idea of Haiti. And one day she told me, she had this little jar of coins on her desk. And I said, well, what are you saving that money for? And she goes, well, Dad. And she didn't really want to tell me. It's like, you're not going to take me serious, So, and she just kept kind of, avoiding it. And I said, come on. Her name's Ariana. I go, Ari, come on. What do you, what are you saving for? I thought maybe a trip to Disneyland or something like that. She basically just looks at me, crosses her arms, and says, Dad, I want to build an orphanage, a hospital, a church, a school in Haiti. Wow. And I go, wow. It's like, okay, man. I go, that's really impressive. And I go,
it really is. At 9, I think I was like, what new Barbie can I get my hands on?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this was just her heart. And so we had this music ministry, and we got an opportunity to go to Haiti and do a concert, travel and to tour. And we went to schools, and we went to churches, and any place that we could play, and she went. She was so excited because, it's kind of, Haiti was a little bit more primitive at that time. You'd get off the plane and you'd literally walk onto the runway, and we'd walk down the steps. And when we got off, and she literally got down on her knees and kissed the ground. She goes, Daddy, I'm home. Now she's like 11, or so. And I'm going, oh, my word, my heart's just falling apart here. I'm going, wow. And the experience was, I can't even explain it. It was so moving for us. And the thing that hit us the hardest were these street kids. There are hundreds of thousands of street kids. And there, all over Haiti, there's like 8 million people there, but there's a ton of street kids, and they just stole our heart. Some of them as young as 4 years old, and we were going, oh man, this just really hit us heavy. And after the tour, we got on the plane, we're heading home, and sitting next to my wife, and she goes, honey, I think we're going the wrong way on this plane. And I go, oh no, I see what's coming here, And she goes, we know Ari, this has been Ari's dream, but maybe the dream is something better for our whole family, And I'm kind of like, well, I'm praying a lot. I'm not hearing this from God, I'm just like, it's just like a tough place. And I'm going, man, I have no idea what I would do there, I'm a musician. I'm a tech guy. I'm a marketing guy. What am I going to do in Haiti? So anyway, a whole series of things happened. What happened? Sort of one by one, each of my family members were all saying, "When are we going to Haiti, Dad?" And there was like a little emergency there that we had to actually fly over and help one of these groups of kids that we had encountered when we were there. And on that trip, I basically knew that this is where we were being called to. So we went home, and we took what little we had left. Here we had sold our house. We had, just kind of downsized to nothing. I think our whole life was in these big 30-gallon, plastic bins, and we had, I don't know, we put about 15 of them together, and we hopped on a plane and we flew to Haiti to take care of these orphan kids that we had encountered. And that's, that was sort of the beginning of an adventure. I can't even go into all of the things that happened. It was amazing. It was the most amazing time of my life.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. It really does. I mean, I think so much of your story, if you don't mind me just cutting in real fast, I think so much of your story is really incredible. And thank you for being so open about it and sharing that with us, because I think for a lot of people, there is so much more struggle with figuring out what it is that you actually want to do than people let on. Because I think in a lot of industries, this one included the financial industry, it's very much pick yourself up by the bootstraps and get back up and do it. But what is the mental struggle behind that? We don't always know. So for you to say things like, you were called to walk out in faith, which I think even for someone who doesn't ascribe to the same religion or feel religious can relate to something like that. Walking out in faith, whether it's faith in yourself, faith in God, or faith in your project or whatever it is. I think being able to walk out in that. And I think a big thing that you're saying throughout the course of this story, you're telling me about your background, and it's not a story, it's, your life, but, but the very compelling thing about your background from here on to where you said when you ended up in Haiti and knew this is exactly where you were called to be, is there's always something inside of you, Bill, that said, this doesn't interest me. I'm not happy. I'm not enjoying this anymore. And you brought that up multiple times throughout your story here. So I guess my follow-up question to all of this would just be, how did these experiences then, all of them, and the way that you were able to kind of identify this isn't the thing for me, how has that kind of informed the way that you approach investing? Like, how did you then go from this very fast-paced life to then working in Haiti and providing aid to children who really needed it, to then saying, all right, well, here's a new way I can give back. This is what I'm going to start to invest in, and this is how I'm going to start earning income and turning it into, like, how did all of these experiences, I think, really, my question, if I can condense it into something simpler, because I'm just still kind of reeling from how amazing the story is kind of how has that informs the way that you kind of approach investing and the way that you approach the idea that, this is something I want to do, and this industry is risky, but I know that this is something I want to do. Like what for you was the moment that made you start thinking in ways that were, I'm happy doing this, or this is what I like doing, and how has that played into how you approach investing?
Sure. Well, that's a good transition there. Let me see if I can show you how that happened. Yeah. Yeah. We were okay. So we're in Haiti at the time, and I think I mentioned now we have 7 kids. Okay, so we have 3 together, and then we adopted 2 beautiful Haitian babies, and so I've got this great family, but they're growing up. And as they're growing up and graduating school in Haiti, they'd go back to the U.S. And we're also getting older too. I kind of went over there a little bit later in life. I mean, I had 20 years in business, so I wasn't a youngster when I went over there. And so,
how long were you actually over there, Bill? How long was the entire stay?
We were there about 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And so our music ministry probably lasted, that was about 7 years, 8 years, right around in there. So 20 years in full-time ministry. So, and then all the business stuff before that. So, so part of the thing, I mean, we, went through a lot of things there. There was a major earthquake there. We had, just a lot of attempted kidnappings. We all got malaria, dengue fever. I mean, it was an intense time, but one of the greatest times in my entire life. And and we were planning on basically living our lives there until we died, but a lot of things happened. My wife got cancer while we were there. And so we had to fly back to the States, and she was healed really rapidly. It was amazing. And all we could think of was that we wanted to go back, Yeah. I mean, even though we've been through this really traumatic, I can't even tell you how that was. I was just, I was devastated when we got the prognosis. And so we had some people that had to step in for us there while we went back to the States for cancer treatment. But we just loved so much what we were doing that it was, instead of staying there and just kind of, okay, that maybe this is a sign we should stay, we just went right back. And then we continued, our work there, and the ministry grew and grew. And we had, we launched, not only did we have the orphanage, we had a guest house, we had a medical clinic, we had a school, and then we had this whole program where we had little micro businesses, because the kids in Haiti, there's 80% unemployment there. So even if you go and you get an advanced degree, there's no guarantee you're going to get work. So we were teaching kids. Not only did we teach them, multiple languages, they spoke Creole, and then in school they learned French. We taught them English, and they also learned Spanish too. So these kids had 4 languages. They finished school, and then we also taught them how to run a business. So we had a bakery, a furniture making business, internet business, all these different businesses. So the kids could kind of plug into whatever it is they like. And, and if nothing else, when they go to advanced education in college, they'll have a job they can do that they can earn income. So we're doing all these things at the same time, but we're getting older. Things are always tough in Haiti. It's just a dangerous place, but we were never afraid or anything. It was like, we just felt like we were just in the middle of God's will. So we were never afraid. And when there were major kidnappings and a lot of violence that happened there, we always stayed. And then when the earthquake happened, a lot of folks left, but we stayed because this is when the people needed us the most. So it was, for us, it was just, we just loved it. And, but as time went on and we started getting older, it got a little bit tougher, because it's physically taxing. It's really tough. So we hadn't really taken like a real sabbatical since we had been there. And so our board was kind of really pushing us to say, you need to go and just some time to rest. You guys, and every day there's something major happening. There wasn't a day that happened where I didn't open my door and go outside of my house and there was a lady holding a baby saying, will you take this baby, and I 9 times out of 10, I would say, no, why do you want me to take your baby? Do you love this baby? And yes, that's why I want to give it to you, because the baby's going to die if she stays with me, and I would say, well, why can't you keep the baby? And she goes, because I don't have any money. I can't, And so we would take these ladies and we'd set them up in businesses, we'd teach them how to run their own business. And if nothing else, selling goods on the street, but it was enough that they could keep their child,
Wow.
And this is, our everyday stuff. We saw people die on a regular basis. We saw, people stoned to death. You just name it. A lot of this tough stuff. Wow. And the earthquake was kind of the big thing. And when the earthquake happened, it just changed our lives. And, but okay, I'm trying to stay on focus here, but okay. So what had happened is we went through a lot of really tough stuff. My kids are growing up, they're going home. We thought, well, maybe this would be a good time to go back to the States. And so we went back, just for a short period of time. And while we were doing this too, we were also thinking that part of this process was, are we going to stay the rest of the time, or are we going to decide to go back to the States? And that's part of the decision-making process. And so I'm looking at, okay, if I go back, okay, now I'm approaching 60. Okay, what am I going to do? I had to run around with my resume, even when I was in the advertising industry, there was no social media. If I went to an ad agency and or something hilarious because, we used to like ad slicks and we'd axe the back of them and stick them and do presentations on boards for view. I mean, it's just a totally different world. And so I'm going, what am I going to do? But I've started businesses. So I knew how to do that. So maybe that's what I'll do. And I was kind of experimenting at the time with some of the businesses we had there. We had this internet business, and I set up a little business for the kids. It was a drop ship business, and they buy things on Amazon, sell it on eBay. And these kids were making more money in that business than most people make in Haiti in a year. In 1 month, these kids would make more. Yeah. And they were having a blast. And so I'm going, well, maybe I could do that, Back in these States, I'll do it too, And I'm just kind of looking at this and I'm, kind of looking at options and all this. And while I was there, before we went back on sabbatical, I got this unexpected inheritance check, and it came in the mail, and I said, oh, wow. I mean, what am I going to do with this? Now, because of my experience in technology, I had a lot of tech stocks. I was very heavily in the stock market. That time it was pretty volatile, so I didn't feel comfortable putting this money into stocks. So I started looking at diversifying in some way, maybe going into, I set up an IRA and I started putting money in there. Then I started looking at maybe, annuities or all different types of things. And some of my board members on my nonprofit, Child Hope International, which is our group for Haiti, they're guys in real estate. And so I was kind of saying, well, maybe I'll go into real estate, but I don't want to like get real involved with it. I'll just do it passively. And so I started looking at that, and I found out about turnkey properties, and that are already basically, they've got tenants in them, they've got property management. So all you have to do is just buy this property. So did my research, started reading, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I got really, just in my mindset had really changed a little bit. And I'm kind of going, okay, I know what I'm doing. I feel comfortable doing this. So I hopped on a plane from Port-au-Prince, flew to Atlanta. I bought a 3-bedroom house there, flew to Memphis. I bought another 3-bedroom house and a duplex, up back on a plane to Haiti. Okay. Next month, I'm getting checks in the mail, and I'm going, okay, well, that's cool. This is really easy. Yeah. And so I just, I'm thinking about it anyway. Part of my thought process as time went on is I thought, well, maybe this is what I could do when I go back. Maybe I'll do this instead of just kind of on the side. Maybe I'll really dig into it. Not only will, I sort of raise income for us in our retirement, but I could also raise money to support the mission in Haiti. Yeah. So I started thinking this, and then when we went back to the States, in that process, we really discovered that we were meant to stay. And so we had to really shift things. We had to find another couple to come in for us. We had, 75 people working for us, Haitians that were there. And we just wanted, to be able to get somebody that could kind of help transition them into running the nonprofit. And so that's what was our mindset at that time. And so when we moved back, while we were on sabbatical, I was looking at these checks coming in every month. I'm going, this is really great. I'm getting great returns. I'm going to buy something else. But one thing I realized is that you could, I had 2 single family homes and 1 duplex. And I thought, well, the duplex I paid the same amount for as the others, but I get twice as much rent. And if I have a vacancy, it's only 50%, And so I thought at that point, I'm going to buy another duplex. So, bought a duplex in Indianapolis. And so I'm starting to look at this and I'm saying, well, this really could be something that would be significant. And I started looking at the various options and what I could do. And I set a goal at that time. Actually, I get, as I'm doing this, I'm also making a lot of mistakes. And I'm just kind of zooming ahead, but I made a lot of mistakes because I was brand new at this. I mean, I bought a house before, but that's about the only experience I had with real estate. And so I was making mistakes. I got a mentor, and a really great mentor who was really pushing me to kind of, I was sharing what I was doing with a lot of people my age because they were really interested. Approaching retirement, they're looking at ways to be able to either add more income to their retirement, to grow their nest egg if they already had one. And so they're all asking me these questions. Well, how did that property go in Indianapolis, or how did that go in Atlanta? And so I'd be sharing this info with people, and I finally said I'm going to do a blog. It'd be easier to, instead of emailing people and what have you. So I started this blog, and then my mentor said, why don't you do a podcast? And they were kind of new. It was like 2016. I didn't really know what a podcast was. It's kind of like radio for me. And I said, well, I got a face for radio, so this is good, as long as I don't have to get on video, But anyway, so I'm just kind of going through this whole thing, and I just, I really didn't want to do it. I told my mentor, I said, okay, he kept bugging me. I finally said, okay, I'm going to do it. I said, okay, but once a week. Now, he has a podcast that's every day. I'm going, no way I'm going to do that. Right. And so I just started doing it once a week, and it was really cool because I was a student. Remember, I'm just learning, so I'm kind of sharing on the podcast, well, first I'm bringing guests on that are a lot smarter than me, that have been doing it for a lot longer period of time.
That's how I feel in my position as host of this podcast too. So you're not alone. I definitely feel like I have the luxury of being a student while also hosting these.
Great.
It's really great, honestly.
I could call people that would never take my call otherwise, and they would come on my show, as some guy that's authored 6 books on real estate investing and, owns thousands of units. And I could ask him anything I want. And I'm going, oh my gosh, this is like better than going to class. I got the teacher right here. Exactly. And so I got 45 minutes to an hour to really, glean from that person. And so I think it was coming across in the show that, I was, that people were writing to me, saying, oh, I love your show. You asked the right questions, and it wasn't potential. I was just trying to learn, and so that's kind of how it developed. And then people wanted to hear more about my personal real estate. And I said, okay, I'm going to do a second day. And so it's Mondays and Fridays. Mondays I have Best Fridays. It's what's called Fun Fact Fridays. And that's where I share my kind of strange, experiences and, in real estate and some of the, and I said, I'm going to share the good, the bad, and the ugly here. I'm nobody to impress here. I'm going to tell the truth so you guys know going into it, that what it's really like. And, I had cops that, one apartment I bought, they staked themselves up in one of the upper, apartments that was vacant at the time, and they had a sting operation going in our neighborhood for the prostitution, and just like just all kinds of crazy things. We've had, crazy stuff going on. Anyway, so that's kind of how that developed, and in that process, once I started, I said, okay, I'm going to set a goal here for myself, and I said, I really want to do this, but I don't have a lot of time. And the whole show is geared towards those people that don't have a lot of time. It's not a young guy in his 20s or whatever. These are people that are starting. They've already had a career. They're ready to step out of that career. They don't want to have to start all over. So they want to be able to do it smart so that in the shortest period of time they can. And so that's what I basically said is I've got this group of real estate investments now, these properties. If I just double the number of properties I have each year, okay, in 6 years, I'll have 1,000 units, okay, or 1,000 doors. And so I set that goal for myself, and that kind of set me on this path that basically now I'm up to around 924 doors, and
you're almost there.
Our podcast has been going. We've got over 500 episodes, and over 1 million downloads, and so it really ended up being really exciting for me. At first it looked like just something, just an investment. As I got into it, I really had fun with it, and I pulled from different experiences and things that I've done, whether it be in business or, banking or even music, I've incorporated all these different things together, and it's really been a blast. It's really been fun.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. And that's the foundation that Old Dog's REI was built on. It was this this new missionary project for you in a way, this like, how do I get the word out to people my age or people who are in a similar situation as me? And I think people want to hear stories like yours, especially people who want to be able to identify with things that you're saying, the fun facts that you're giving on Fridays, those sorts of things. So I think that that's incredible. How do you then, some of my questions involving the Old Dogs REI network is like, how do you then what do you use to continue to educate yourself, at least like whether it's personal experience, or is there anything else in addition to that that helps you add value to what you believe adds value to your podcasts and your blogs? And what are those things? How do you continue to keep things fresh, new, interesting, and continue to provide valuable information to those who are listening and reading?
Well, yeah, what's really interesting is, like you said, you kind of hit it on the head. It's educating myself. And so the whole process for me is still, even though I've been doing it 6 years, that it's not really a long period of time. It is, I'm still educating myself. So even the way I picked my guests, it was kind of funny, kind of self-serving on one hand, but on the other time, it worked because, for example, I'd go, I don't have a real estate attorney. I'm gonna see if I can find like the best real estate attorney out there, and have him on my show. And and maybe I'll strike a relationship with this guy, and he'll end up being my attorney, or he'll at least let me know what I need to look for. So as I would have guests, it was trying to fill the gap. Okay, I want to try and fund something. I have bankers on. I went into syndication, so I had syndicators come on. So and now, granted, I read a lot of books, and I listen to podcasts like the people listening to this show. I do a lot of other educational things. I do believe in mentors and masterminds and things like that to be able to broaden my knowledge. But the show has always been, like, for me, a way to just get different people's ideas. And I don't just have, I'm kind of basically in the sort of the residential rental real estate, business, where I have properties that people rent and they stay in. I also do Airbnb too. I kind of picked that up actually from having a guy on that did Airbnbs, and I have flippers on, and wholesalers and people that buy and sell deeds and trusts, and all these. I've had all these different people. So my listeners, even though I may not want to go into a particular area, our listeners will say, "Hey, that works better for me being a landlord, because I don't want to have to deal with its toilets and trash. I want to be able to, be more passive." And so it
goes back to your thing and your story. I didn't like this, or I wasn't happy doing this. I think someone could listen to an episode of your podcast. Maybe they've been flipping and they don't necessarily enjoy the process of that. Then they hear about, house hacking, and it's like, oh, well, that's something that's more up my alley. I have the time to do that, this and that. So I think it goes back to how you've approached it and how you've been able to kind of pay that forward, share that with other people as well.
Right. Hey.
That's incredible. I mean, I think that you I agree. I just completely agree. As in my position as the host of this podcast, I feel the same way. The people that I've gotten to talk to, I get to learn a lot from, you included. So is there anything that has surprised you from any listeners or readers who may have reached out to you, or anything that you've been able to strike in people, whether it's an epiphany like that, I want to do this kind of real estate investing. Thank you for helping me realize this, or thank you for how have you helped people kind of realize those strategies, and what are some of the strategies you've seen people pick up? And then what are some of the ways that people have surprised you and what you've been able to learn from your audience, even, in addition to your guests?
Yeah, that's the great question. Great question. I think that one of the things that was really neat in this process is, one thing I established early on is I said, look, I'm not going to sell anything, on this show. I don't coach. I don't have a home study course or anything like that. I wanted to create a non-threatening environment for people, and I also
that's great.
Said, hey, if you want to talk to me, either write to me or set up a call or something, and I'll just do it as I can, and I wanted to be able to make myself accessible, but I also thought it was important to understand what we're thinking and what they really want out of the show. And and so some of the things that were one of the surprising things to me was there are a lot of people that are 60, 65 older that really weren't prepared for retirement for one reason or another. They may have lost their nest egg in 2008, when the Great Recession hit, or maybe they just, life happened and they did not have anywhere near what they thought they would have. But what I realized is that there's just a lot of people there that are ready for retirement, and some that are, are living on Social Security. They're listening to the show saying, "Hey, I need to generate more to be able to, really see my retirement turn into something that really make a difference." I don't want to have to, go visit, save for a year to go visit my daughter on the other side of the country, just to get a plane ride out, and so there are those people. And then there's also, people that are planned well. I wasn't one of those guys. I really wasn't. I mean, I had a little nest egg, and stocks and so forth. It wasn't going to carry me, and I'd lived on faith, for so long. So for me, it was important to be able to fill the gap. And there are those people that have invested really well, so they're just kind of looking at ways to take that nest egg and not tap into it, where they could just put it in the right investment, so that they're just taking the income that they're generating from that nest egg. So it's really just opened my eyes to a lot of folks that are out there that we think are doing okay, but really it's pretty critical what they do in terms investment wise, especially for the rest of their life.
Yeah, I think I take for granted the fact that I always think, I'm like, oh, well, when I'm 60, I'm going to have it. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to have it figured out by then. I have to. The stakes are simply that high when I'm that age. And I think you've raised a really excellent point. And I'm sure a lot of people, the need for a podcast like Old Dog's REI was probably so necessary in this industry. So I think that it's really great that you are helping people, and that they can reach out to you, and you have made yourself accessible to reach out to you. I think a lot of people probably felt the need for a presence like yours in this industry. So what then, my next question to you is, you've shared that you have made mistakes over the course of your lifetime, and especially when you first started out with investing and real estate investing, in that particular field in your life. What is something, because you've been so candid and transparent, again, which is what people probably really love about you, what is one of the biggest life lessons that kind of stick out to you? What's the mistake that still resonates with you as an investor now? And, oh, wow, this is the biggest lesson I was able to take away from that. This is something I now share with my listeners. This is a fun fact that I rely on. For you, what is that major lesson, if there's a specific story that sticks out to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, the guy I went up to college with, up at Columbia, my best friend, it's since like fourth grade. One day we decided we wanted to go skydiving. And so we went, we're very different people, I mean, in many regards. And when we went skydiving, it really showed a lot about who we were. Because what was really funny is, they taught us everything, they prepped you. Now this was, at a time when I guess now everybody's like strapped on to somebody that knows more. We were just like free falling. and they told us that
stomach just dropped.
if our chute doesn't open, we have this other one we have to grab. Wow. And then we have to pull that, right? If it doesn't open. Well, it's really funny because my friend Ken, he's my best friend, still my best friend. When he was like jumping out of that plane, he had one hand on that ripcord on the emergency, and then the other hand out. And when I jumped out, I'm just like, okay, there we go. Yeah. I mean, I was just it says a lot about here's a guy who really thinks things through. He always has backup plans and backup plans of backup plans. And I've always been just like jump, you just jump. And
Yeah.
and sometimes it looks amazing. And sometimes it's a disaster. And and so
That's true.
I kind of did that when I first started with real estate. I just jumped in. Oh, turnkey properties, they sound great, Didn't turn out to be great at all, it was kind of a little bit of a disaster. But what it taught me is really, especially later in life, you can do a lot of that stuff when you're young and you make mistakes. We all do. You pull yourself up and you move on. And when you're older, you really don't want to make those mistakes anymore. Okay, you've done it, been there, done that. And so that's, this is an area that I really have kind of forced myself in real estate. It's just, you really need to be strategic. You really need your homework, and you just have to be smart, and really you don't want to gamble, because in many cases, that what you're gambling with is what you've worked all your life to achieve, right? And so there's this nest egg or whatever it is, and so I think that was one of the big things that hit me, is that I'm more, I'm probably just more intentional now, when I do invest. And if I don't see the right property, I went years without buying anything because I didn't see the right property. And so, that's kind of where I'm at still, is I just, I really want to do the right thing, and I want to do it, well, because I have a family, I've got grandkids now. And, my idea is to create this legacy that I'll hand down to them. And, I've already got some of my kids that are really into real estate. And I love nothing more than to say, okay, you guys, you can take this on, this is yours now, instead of just selling it like a lot of people would. They'd inherit the properties and they'd sell them all and they just take the cash. They understand what cash flow is and how they could actually pursue the dreams in their life. If they want to be an artist or a musician, and they've got cash flow coming in from the rental properties, go for it. They can do that. And and you don't have to worry about surviving like I had to when I wanted to be a professional musician. It was like, okay, this isn't flying, And so
I think it does hold a lot of people back. I think about people in my industry, people I graduated college with, who are working 3, 4, 5 side hustles just to provide income so that they can do what they love, which is go stand in a line at 4 a.m. and have an audition. And I wish I was that kind of person, but I am not. So I'm glad that I'm not there anymore. But I think that this is something that I know I didn't know about when I started working here at CamaPlan. It opened my eyes up to the fact that I probably, if I was that kind of person that was like, no, I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. I'm going to go to the casting call. I can dance. I can do this. I can do that at 6 a.m. Knowing that would have been an option for me, maybe would have changed the course of my life. I don't think it does because I can't dance, but but I think that is a really excellent point. The idea that, it is a great way for anybody, regardless of whether or not you all have that entrepreneurial spirit. You were born at the lemonade stand selling that lemonade when you were 5 years old. It's a great way for people to supplement their income to do what they want to do, to pursue their dreams. So I love that point that you made.
Yeah, it's funny because I know it's the old dogs REI network. I meet with a lot of younger people, a lot of millennials, a lot of people that are trying to figure out what they're doing, and they're so impressive. For them to have the guts to call me and meet me for coffee or something like that is a big deal. And I just really impressed, and I see these young people and I'm just kind of going, this is awesome. My own kids, their thing is the first house is going to be a 4-plex, and they're going to live in one unit for a year. Okay. Probably get an FHA loan, a cheap loan, and then for a year, and then they'll move out. Now, all the other units will be filled with people, and they'll probably upgrade it while they're living there. And then they'll move out, and then your rent is paid, your mortgage is paid by the 3 other tenants staying there, and then they go to another 4 unit, and then they'll do the same thing, and then before they know it, they'll have 12 units. And people can live on the income from 12 units. So hopefully, I would say get 40 units at least, or something like that. We have a little buffer there. But But that's a smart idea. And then you can pursue your dreams. You can do if you want to do, if you didn't want to be a teacher because of the salary, well, forget it. You can do this. And if you love teaching, teach, don't worry about it, because you can generate the income to, on these rental properties, and you don't have to worry about it. So, I mean, that's,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's one of the exciting things. And older folks can do that too. I know some old dogs that are house hacking,
Yeah. It's incredible.
Do the same thing.
Absolutely. I was just having a great conversation with an Airbnb owner who definitely is making a lot of money off of my stay alone. So I know, and she was older, and I was like, this is really cool that, maybe this woman is retired. Maybe she's not, maybe she's still working, but this is a way she just got another $1,000 in her pocket was for me to go to it. So I think it's really cool. And I think you raise an excellent point that it really, being able to have this other avenue as an option to build income, to have that safety net is not discriminatory to age at all. So I think that's great. I love the message that you're able to provide with REI, with the Old Dogs REI network, and that the fact that you were able to meet with younger people as well. For you, as we start to kind of like wind down on the end of this interview, I'm curious for you, you mentioned it became apparent to you and clear that, when you moved back to the States, this was where you were going to stay. But what is the, and you're at 924 on your way to that 1,000 goal. What is next for you? What is something that you're looking forward to, whether it's more missionary work, whether it's a new number to reach, whether it's another day to add to the podcast schedule? What's something you're looking forward to, Bill?
Yeah, that's a good question. I kind of, I kind of went into this thing pretty aggressively. I probably shouldn't have. 6 years to try and accomplish the goal. It took a lot of work, and I was working long days. I felt like I was, back to my old entrepreneurial days. Getting up at 4 a.m, doing that. And so, basically, once the portfolio is established, the idea is to really actually, take a little step back and hopefully be able to train, some of my kids to get involved and learn some of the basics of it so that they can eventually take it on. I'd love to be able to step back and eventually, while I'm still alive, be able to help them to see what it takes to run, this kind of a business. And so that's my heart is still very much in Haiti. We still have our nonprofit organization, Child Hope International. One of our dreams there was to build a village, for the kids that would, just there's a beautiful part of Haiti. Haiti has the highest mountains in all the Caribbean, and you can go up these beautiful mountains. There's pine trees, and you'd be blown away for a country that has such dire poverty. There's such beauty there still, and the idea is to build this, this nice little village for the kids to be able to see. They don't have foster care there in Haiti, so we basically are the foster care. They have also what they call orphaninas, which are places where you can adopt kids, but our kids are not. Kids that are adopted, they're raised up until they're 18, and then they have to go out in the world. And so I want to be able to have, a place for them to do that, and then to continue to have that happen, and have some of the kids. We already have some of the kids that have grown up that are working and doing the same thing, at the orphanage. And so it's really, I don't know, that's my dream, is to be able to see that fly. But I also have, I got 7 kids, and I have, I have daughters yet that, that are going to have weddings, and I want to be able to offer them the wedding of their dreams, and there's, babies to come, and there's all this stuff, and I want to be there, I want to be able to be there and be involved, and to be able to help. They're going to buy their first house. I want to help them to buy that first house, I don't want to spoil them. I want them to be able to, to understand how to earn money and make money, right? But I do want to be, I want to be available. I don't want to overbearing, but I want to definitely be able to help them in their dreams. And so that's a big part of where, and we love travel. I've been to 27 countries already. I love travel, and that's something me and my wife or my kids can come with us or whatever that we can do. I've been so busy doing real estate that I haven't really traveled much. So that's something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Can I just say that I do love that your goal is be there, be present, be available. I think that is really incredible coming from you as a father, as someone who runs this network. You've made it so clear that your message is be there for your people, for your network, for your family, for the children in Haiti. So I think that's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. I want to ask the final question that we ask all of our guests before we sign off, and I ask people where they can reach you, Bill. The question that I want to ask is, what are your keys to building financial wealth, or building wealth and unlocking your financial freedom? This does not have to be financial. I apologize. So building wealth, unlocking financial freedom, it can be anything, but what is something that has informed your unique definition of success?
I think, success is different things to different people. And
exactly. Yeah.
Sometimes people look at it on a monetary sense. Some people, I don't look at that. My success to me is having happy, healthy kids and grandkids, and to be able to see them grow into amazing adults that can do amazing things for other people. And that to me is success. I mean, obviously, I have faith in God, and that's an important part of where I see success. But in my now that I'm an old guy, with gray hair here, I kind of learned a lot. When I was younger, all I could think about was making money, and that was it, and that just passes pretty quickly, and you begin to realize there's not a lot of substance in that. So to me, a happy, healthy family, and be able to, to be there for them, not to be this overbearing guy. Hey, where are you going? Can I go with you? No, Dad, we're going. But like you said, be there for them if they need me and when they need me, and to be able to see those wonderful times in their life, as they grow, and have neat things happen in their lives too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I think that is a lovely note to end on. I thank you for being such an incredible resource throughout your life, but thank you for coming on here and sharing this incredibly enlightening conversation about what you've been able to learn and how you've been a resource for others, Bill. I can't wait to share this with our listeners so that they can reach out to you regardless of what age they are.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Well, thank you again. One final question before we sign off is, how can people reach you? So any websites, social medias, anything that listeners can use to get in touch with you, learn more about your projects, and learn more about the REI network, Old Dogs REI network.
Sure. Like 3 websites. One of them is, as the one we've talked about, it's the Old Dogs REINetwork.com, and dogs is spelled DAWGS.
Yes.
And REI stands for Real Estate Investing Network. So that's the Old Dogs REI Network. And then there's Manassero Properties, which is, talks about the properties we invest in and the projects we do. And then there's childhope.org. Okay. And so that talks about what we're doing in Haiti and the things that are going on there. So, any of those, you should be able to reach me. So, that's it. So, and if anybody wants to just talk, if they're not sure if they want to do real estate or whatever, I'll tell them, the good, the bad, and the ugly, so I'll be happy to share any questions anybody has. That's no problem.
Incredible. Thank you so much again. This was a wonderful conversation. I'm leaving it feeling warm and ready to take on the world no matter what.
Yes.
So thank you again, Bill. And thank you everybody for tuning into his episode and listening. Be sure to look out for more CamaPlan events that feature Bill Manassero and the Old Dogs REI Network. But until then, thank you all for joining us this week on the road to financial freedom. Be sure to tune in next week to hear more from our experts who have paved their roads to financial freedom, or you can call CamaPlan today to learn how you can start to take control of your future wealth. Thank you, Bill, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jessica. It's been such a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad. It's likewise a pleasure for me as well. Thank you all for tuning into our podcast. We truly hope that you're enjoying your ride along the road to financial freedom so far. If you like what you've heard and learned, or if you want to hear more about certain topics that we may have already covered or have yet to cover, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. We would love to hear any feedback from you so that we may continue to make our podcast the best that it can be for you, our listeners. Thanks again, everyone, and remember, tune in next week to the road to financial freedom.